intel and the situation that we find ourselves in now. So let's go ahead and get into that. Um, the I mentioned earlier that we have a nice international reach now. We're getting heard in different parts of the world that we didn't used to a few years ago. And in fact, I believe it was on last Tuesday's call, maybe. I think it was Tuesday's call, not Thursday's. I believe it was Tuesday's. We had about, I think it was 370 people from Kurdistan that listened in, which was amazing. And so I'm very pleased that we're sort of reaching the Middle East as well as other parts of the globe, the Far East, parts of South Africa, Argentina. We know we have Maria down in Buenos Aires. So thank you for that, Maria. And also, of course, we've been in France and Nadia over there, and just a number of people around the globe. I'm hoping we're getting a little play into Mexico, and of course Central America, and of course we love our listeners to the north in Canada, and we pick up some in Europe as well, and in Great Britain, I believe, as well. So I'm pleased. I'm pleased that I'm kind of an international guy. I love languages, and I love kind of the cultures around the world, and it's always been exciting for me to travel. And what I love is that today, May 2nd, at least we have Mayday is over. And Mayday was yesterday on the 1st of May, and I remember growing up thinking Mayday was a big deal and kind of a spring fest kind of a thing, in school, and it was pretty cool. But this Mayday is a lot different, I think, from what we grew up with, because now, Mayday seems to be more about a workers' day, possibly even a socialism day, I don't know. But it's something that closed the banks around the world except for the United States, Canada, and Australia. Those three countries were the only ones that I understand the banks were actually open. So what that did was that, I'm going to say, it focused some of the attention and intel that we got, but it didn't really please a lot of people that were doing international type transactions because they couldn't complete them yesterday. And then it took until the markets opened in China and Hong Kong at about 9:30 p.m. last night to sort of bring everything back again. So it was sort of a pause day, if you will, for us. We sort of paused. It doesn't mean that things didn't occur, because they did. But they occurred later in the day, yesterday and last night. In fact, we understand that there's a large fund, I'm just going to say it that way, out of the Philippines that opened up last night at about 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 Eastern, and that was opened up and released. And I think that was actually released not just to us, of course, but to about 192 countries, from what I understand, which is awesome. And that's going to be used to fund hundreds of thousands of humanitarian projects. This was, from what I understand, the release of this fund, and it was sort of referred to as the bottomless pit. It's quite a large fund. I don't even want to tell you guys how big it is, because you probably wouldn't believe me. But, I know you'd believe me if I said it, but this fund is just almost a bottomless pit. It's a lot of funding. So when that opened up, my understanding is that's the last major thing to occur before the blessing is to be released to us. Now we know that we've had Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 account transactions handled with some liquidity and access to funds, and some still with funds showing in the banks with a pending symbol by the account. So that, yeah, you can see there's money in the account, but you can't get to it yet. There's no access to it. My understanding is that status could change even overnight tonight. So that's very encouraging. And those of us in Tier 4 that are part of the internet group will probably start, shortly, very shortly, because we're sort of at the point now where we're just about ready for that to occur. We thought it would occur a little bit before then, but I think, like I said, we kind of had a pause between Sunday and yesterday with Mayday going on. So kind of glad Mayday is over. Now, let's see, what else? Oh, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Iraq. My understanding is that a number of announcements, maybe 5, maybe 6 different announcements were made in the mosques a few days ago. And my understanding is that we may have availability to hearing those announcements or some other announcement relative to those, possibly tomorrow morning, Iraq time, which would be late tonight, U.S. time. So we'll see. It may occur. We have been told that those announcements were scheduled for like another day later, but things have been moving along nicely that may move those up to the time frame that I mentioned. I believe there were 3 announcements that were made this morning regarding Iraq, regarding China, and regarding the United States that were made in mid-morning today, but they were not for our ears. They were not for us. They were for, let's just call it, the international financial community. And I believe those occurred, from what I understand, and served the purpose that they were designed for. So that's positive, and that's moving along nicely. We do think that we know that the banks are synchronizing. We know that the rates on currencies in the first basket and actually a second basket have been trading. And we know that the currencies that we hold ready for exchange have been trading upward. The rates have been going up. Now, you guys know I very rarely talk about rates in specifics, and tonight is no exception. I'll just let you know that they're continuing to go up into sort of an area that we didn't really expect. I didn't expect them to be this high. I knew they would be high, but I didn't think they'd be in the range that they are in now. So, and this includes really all of them. Now, we're not going to talk about too many in specifics, but I would say everybody should be extremely pleased. Now, the other thing is that the rates were changing so dramatically that the screens were flickering, flashing, to where you couldn't see the actual rate stabilize unless you had a strobe light. And that changed from the situation yesterday to where today the rates are updating or changing or flashing, let's use the term flashing, approximately every minute, maybe every 55 to 65 seconds. Let's just say approximately every minute. So they're obviously visible, and you can see them, but they also are subject to some increase due to trading. So that's very, very positive for us. It's almost like they're settling down. They're still trading, but the frequency of the flashing on the screens has been reduced from high intensity, high velocity changes to sort of stable every minute or so on that. So that's very positive. So we can look at it as though the banks around the world are continuing to get updated with new rates. They're synchronizing. I think they're just in prep mode for this all to be released. Now, of course, everyone wants to know, when are we going to get the toll-free number? Are you still going to get be one who will receive the toll-free number? And my answer is yes. My understanding is yes, I will receive it. And I'm honored to be selected for that purpose. I really am. And I will obviously take that information with good care, and whatever the protocol is, I'll follow it. And if it's something, for example, if I were to receive the number overnight or in the middle of the night, my understanding is that this is to be a daytime event. Now, if that's the case, I may get instructions to release it during the day, sometime in the early morning, mid-morning, who knows? I don't know that yet. I do not have that information. But my understanding is they do want this to be a daytime event. Okay? Now, I know that security has been beefed up. We are still on active status at the redemption centers and at some of the banks that have international currency trading desks that will also participate in this, and where most of us will have an 800 number that will focus us toward the redemption centers. Some people that don't find the number or know about it will be able to utilize some of the Tier 1 and some Tier 2 banks as well. And some of it will utilize, some of the major banks will actually be in the position of exchanging the ZIM, but just for a very short period of time, like 4 days of intake. And then that currency would be taken over and exchanged, if you will, to HSBC. So there are a number of banks that will be almost like feeder banks that will help HSBC to collect the ZIM currency that's out there that a customer might have that they would exchange through, let's say, most of the Tier 1 banks and some of the Tier 2 banks. I know RBC is involved in that. I know that even SunTrust and Regions are involved. And then, of course, Citi and Chase are involved. But I believe it's only for a very short period of time. Now, most of us will use the 800 number when we find it, and we'll have it on the Big Call website, provided we're allowed to place it there for a period of time, as long as we're allowed to keep it there. And then you guys can go to thebigcall.net and see it, or we will, if we're allowed, we will post it in a couple other locations online that you guys are used to going to. Okay? So that's sort of the overall plan for finding out when and all that. Just kind of check the website occasionally to see. Because we're not going to email anybody the number or do any kind of mass mailing or anything like that, okay? Just so you guys know. That's not in the plan. Today is Tuesday. We hope that the release takes place before our next call, Thursday night. We will do a call next Thursday if we don't have the blessing prior to that. If we do, we probably will not do a call Thursday, but we will do a recorded celebration call of 10 or 12 minutes that we will put a link together for that and then place that in a couple locations, including the bigcall.net website. And we'll probably have it right there on the landing page, so you don't have to go hunting for that or you won't have to go hunting for the toll-free number to use. Now, let's see, getting beyond those points, this call, the big call, when I started this 6 years ago, we tried to keep this call a non-political call, because I know we have listeners from both sides, independents, Republicans, Democrats, we have a variety of listeners. And my goal with you guys is to provide accurate information, things you can use. And with Big Call University, obviously, with Sue and Bob, we bring information that no one else has. But it's something that you can use, and with Pastor Stephen as well, with his teaching. It's not available anywhere else tied to any other intel call. But to have that team and have that type of information, I love the fact that we can put that out in a way that edifies people, that allows them to grow, that allows them to learn and experience sort of something new every call. So I appreciate the faithfulness that the Big Call listenership has to tune in routinely. Now, when I'm saying that we're not a political call, we just generally don't go there. And I'll say this tonight, you guys know that one of the biggest things that we'll ever do is the project Rebuild America. And I came up with this a few months ago. I told you guys about it. We want to do it. It does mesh nicely with President Trump's agenda to make America great again, to make America safe again. So it dovetails beautifully with that concept. And I just want to say that I'm pleased that, things are moving in that direction for us as a country. And I think we can all come together and realize that regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, we all want the very best for our country. We do want America rebuilt. We want to rebuild America. We want America to be great again. And I believe that we're all going to help to do that. Now, I'm not trying to polarize anyone on this call. I'm trying to unify the body of believers that are here on this call. And I am encouraged that the president and the administration is looking to put together a very positive tax plan for us that will allow us to, yes, pay less taxes probably, but be able to do things that will really inspire and build our economy in this country and bring it up to where it's a very thriving economy. And everything that we're about, guys, with our humanitarian projects, they're about new jobs. It's about creating jobs. It's about helping people and lifting and elevating people and raising the level of the playing field for everybody. That's what we're about. That's what we want to do. And you know what? When we help people, I don't care whether it's inner city or wherever it is around this country, one neighborhood at a time as we rebuild America together, we're not going to care whether they're Republican or Democratic or independent. We're there to help the people. We're not going to get into the politics of it. But I just want you to know that I'm encouraged by the direction the country is going in. And I want to applaud the administration and the president for taking us that direction. Okay? And I know that not everybody on the call is in agreement on everything. We know that. But we can agree that God's blessing by bringing this to us is not just for ourselves, to keep it just for us or just our families, but to help other people and maybe the less fortunate as well. We know we're going to do that. We know that that's what we're called to do. That's part of this blessing. It's part of what it is. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. And we know that this is an end times thing that's coming for us. And we know that in a very real sense, we've been chosen for such a time as this. So I just want you guys to know that when we go about rebuilding America, when we go about helping the veterans with the Veterans Retreat Network and the pastors and the missionaries through the Pastoral Retreat Network, and everything else that we do with community gardens and, aquaculture, aquaponics, everything else that we do in terms of farming, it's to help our country as a whole. And I just want you guys to realize that that's what we want to bring. It's not a political agenda. It's an agenda of inclusivity. It's an agenda of one. It's a concept where we come together to be one, to be a force that is more loving, is more caring, and is more giving and forgiving of each other and others. Okay? That's my heart. You guys know my heart. You've heard me. You've heard me in some pretty tender moments. You've heard me for years talk about how we love everybody on this call. And we want to show you that. We want to show everybody that as we take this thing not just to the U.S. as we rebuild America, but we also want to take it around the world. There's a lot of need, and that's why when you go into the Redemption Center and you see rates that are available, you know that you have privately negotiable rates, especially on the Zim, that could take it sky high. And just consider what it is you plan to do with these funds. Think of your God account. I told you guys I'm going to use all of the Zim that I have as one God account. Okay? And that's just a concept I came up with because, it's just, to me, it makes sense to do it that way. And then what I want to do is continue to use that for all the humanitarian projects and ministry that I plan to do. And some of you may do the same thing. Some of you may say, well, that sounds cool, Bruce. I'll go with a God account concept. It sounds better than a tithe, 1/10, or a double tithe, 20%. You're using basically 95% or more of your exchange with the Zim for your God account. I'm like, yeah, that's my intention. Remember W.R. Grace used to live on the 10% and give the 90%. I thought to myself back then when I heard about that, I thought, yeah, wouldn't that be cool to get to that point? Well, guess what? We're at the door of being at that point. It's really cool. I really love that. And I'm looking forward to partnering with many of you that are listening to the call. I'm looking for at least 5,000 that'll say, yeah, I want to be part of that Rebuild America program. I'd love to rebuild neighborhoods and cities and inner cities and add funding for schools and create clinics, in parts of town that maybe aren't getting quite the amount of health care they need. Guys, you can just picture it. What about recreation centers that can be built, especially in the inner city or just in cities where they don't exist? Maybe there's not a Y down there. Maybe there's not indoor basketball or any number of sports that you can play inside, or maybe there's no place to dance, that you can do that, like Sue loves to dance so much. Maybe we can do that too in the recreation centers. Guys, the sky's the limit. And, if you've looked up lately, we've got a limitless sky. Really. We've got Big Call Universe, and that's just part of the multiverse. We're talking one of multiple universes, guys. You know, that's big. And the Big Call and Big Call University is here to serve. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about coming together with a new